So I am recording this without a mic. I hope it sounds okay. I'll hope to do some editing that'll make it feasible for podcasting. However, I had to start all over with this particular recording for this episode. Now, I'm not going to let this deter me. I'm just going to have to do it without a mic, you guys, because for some reason, every time I picked up my little mic that I have, my little earbuds, my little bootleg Apple earbuds or whatever, because I have a Samsung, um, it would pick up a Spotify, would just turn on a Spotify podcast in the middle of me recording. And nothing wrong with that. I'm going to just try to support as many podcasts as I can while I'm doing this. However, I did not want to hear about Delta Works talking about something. I don't know what she was talking about, but God bless her, as they say in the South. God bless her. Anyway, I was just irritated that it just kept popping up in the middle of my trying to record Trippin with Yvonne Maurice. That was the only problem that I was having. So anyway, thank you again for coming back and joining me for another episode of Trippin with Yvonne Maurice. And I really have so many things that I would love to talk about. There's things that are going on all over the world that are so detrimental to us as people and impactful. And it's been going on for a long time. People are just now starting to see things. I think people are waking up. But anyway, I'm not going to really get into any conspiracy theories right now because I want to build up a little bit more of my subscriptions as far as like people at least subbing to hear my podcast or my YouTube channel. And I actually got some subscriptions this past week. I'm excited. It may have only been 3, but that's okay. That's okay. You got to start somewhere. And honestly, do I have the expectation of this being a big deal? Nah. This is really just an outlet for me, a creative outlet. Sometimes I get to express my opinion about things, like I'm going to do today, because this is just my opinion. And also, I get to tell you some stories and funny stories and jokes and things like that, because I interwove my jokes in my storytelling. So anyway, before I get too dull and boring for you guys, let me cut this back up. So we are going to be talking today a little bit about these dating today in 2024. Okay. I am a woman of a certain age. I am in my 50s, my late 50s at that. And I know I don't look it. Thank you so much. We've already covered this. Black don't crack. It's a form of reparations, yada, yada, yada. So anyway, it's a little bit challenging, but I had to do some retrospect, some flashing back and thinking on memories and experiences that I've had since I've been dating, really since I was in my early 20s, because I wasn't a popular girl. I wasn't a popular girl. I wasn't one of those girls that everybody was trying to take out. They were clamoring around. I mean, I always look at myself as a swan. I was a late bloomer for sure, as far as the looks department was concerned, as far as I felt, and apparently others, because I didn't get asked out on any dates when I was in high school by anybody that I attended high school with. The only time I take that back. That is a lie. There was this one guy. We will not use his real name. We will say that his name is Tom. And Tom was 2 years behind in my grade, as far as my grades were concerned. I was a sophomore. He was a freshman. And we were in art class together. And he professed his love to me. But I was like, you're younger than me, and how would I look dating you? I'm already a loser in these halls. It's just not going to work, That's also like when they tried to, recruit me to play basketball in high school. And I was like, nope, 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 nope. Those girls had, it was the 80s. It was the early 80s. Jerry curls had just become very, very, very popular. And for some reason, it was extremely popular amongst basketball players, female basketball players. Them girls love Jerry curls. And I think it's because they either had a ponytail, a swept back ponytail, or the Jerry curl. And I think it was just because they were sweating and running up and down the court and always in conditioning. And so they had to do something that was easy for their hair. I didn't like Jerry curl. I had a really bad experience in the 6th or 7th grade with a Jerry curl. My mom thought my hair would be really pretty with that. I have naturally curly hair, and so she thought it would be really, really pretty with a Jerry curl. And the Jerry curl was a hot, drippy mess. I remember that I was traumatized and begged my mom to cut all my hair off because I did not want to. They talked about me so bad in school. Oh my God, they called me a poodle. They called me all kinds of stuff. This is, long before, after, the afro was all the rage. This was the late 70s and people were going into relaxers and wearing straight leg jeans. They were no longer wearing the flared jeans with rainbows on them. It wasn't the 70s or the 60s anymore. So I was completely, as far as my peers were concerned, out of step in style. So I had all my hair cut off. But anyway, yeah, I did not want to get another Jerry curl. And all the girls back then, they used to wear those basketball tube socks. Now, I don't know if you know what that is because they don't really make them anymore and people don't wear them anymore. But tube socks were these cotton white socks that came all the way up to your kneecap, right? Right below your kneecap. And they would always have some kind of colored stripe going horizontally across them. They were hideous, okay? And if you had big muscular thighs or calves like some of those girls did, it was just not an attractive look. And I already felt like I already had a lot of strikes against me. I was tall, I wore glasses, and I've never dated. The only experience I had was reading Harlequin and Judy Blume and Jackie Collins' books. So I didn't know anything about dating at all. I thought it was supposed to be like how they did on the Love Boat. You have sex and that's it. Hey, and then you get married, right? Like I thought it was the concept was ingrained in me growing up was date, have sex, have relations. You don't have to know them, but if you have relations, then that's your boyfriend. He's your boyfriend. That's your man, right? Because that was what I was seeing, and that's what I was assuming. So, my first date was my prom. I was 17 years old, and I went with a guy that one of my girlfriends hooked me up with that she knew in her neighborhood. He wanted to go to my high school's prom. I attended Louisville Male Traditional High School. And yeah, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't a popular girl, and no one in my school had asked me to go. And so she was like, and this was the last minute. I didn't even know if I was going to have a date. Because the date that I initially had was a friend of mine that I knew who lived in another city, in Alabama, actually. And he said that he was going to take me to my prom, and then he flaked out on me at the last minute. And then I couldn't find anybody else to take his place because nobody was calling me. Now, mind you, at this point, I was no longer a virgin, okay? What had happened is that I was hanging out with a couple of girlfriends of mine, one that I've known for several years, and another girl that I had a fight with. And we'll talk about that in another episode. But anyway, we were hanging out, and I met her boyfriend's brother. And we exchanged phone numbers, and we started talking, and we never went out on a date. But we had sex. We had sex. Yeah. So by that point, I was not a virgin, right? But I still didn't have any experience with the opposite sex. I don't even know how that happened. And when I confessed my naivete to this guy, he was like, didn't believe me. So, that was just, but I had set the pattern for myself, right? So I had set this pattern for myself of not really, one, getting to know a person, two, going out on dates and experiencing them outside of my dorm room or a bedroom, right? Or a car. We've all had those experiences, right? But anyway, so I didn't have a lot of experience. So when I went on my first date, it was all above board. He was so sweet and kind and very mannerable and wanted to date me. He wanted to date me further, like wanted to take me out on other dates. And because I was stuck in some coloristic bullcrap where I thought that I had to be with somebody that was that I found attractive, blah blah blah. Bull crap, because he was an attractive guy. He was very attractive. But back then, what do they say? Light skin was in. Light skinned it was in. And that was who I tend to gravitate to as far as who I liked. I mean, I was in love with Prince. There you go. But then I also loved Eddie Murphy back then too. So, I wasn't too color struck, but I was color struck. And because other people weren't looking at him like that, I wasn't looking at him like that. So I was allowing other people to influence my decisions. Okay. And I take accountability for all of that because he was a good dude. And anyway, but that started it. I mean, then I right after that, I went away to college and never had a date the whole time I was away at college in Bowling Green, Kentucky, at Western. The Hilltoppers, go Hilltoppers, WKU. But yeah, never had a date the whole time I was there because that's not what people did. People didn't really date. And that's the thing. And that's my whole crux of this. People didn't date. They just hooked up. We didn't call it hooking up back then. We called it talking. We were talking to somebody. I'm talking to so-and-so and I'm talking to so-and-so. That meant nothing. That meant absolutely nothing, that you were talking to them. But in actuality, you were probably having sex with this person and meeting them on several times a week, getting together, but y'all never went on dates. Okay. So that's what I'm talking about, right? It was just people you were talking to people. And I talked to quite a few people, but I didn't really start going on them dates, like being taken to the movies or to dinner or, getting flowers until my mid-20s. Didn't even happen before then. Okay. And I don't know if that's been the experience for a lot of other women. However, for me, that has been my experience. And that basically, because I was settling for less than satisfactory treatment from these men, and because I wasn't, how should I say this? And I wasn't setting myself any boundaries because I didn't know how to do that. People ran ramshot over me. They just completely took advantage of the situation, and I was what? I was out there in them streets, but wasn't trying to be that way. I was really sincerely trying to find me a boyfriend, I was trying to find a boyfriend. But once you get labeled something, man, especially if you live in a town like Louisville, Kentucky, then it's hard to shake that kind of label, honey. It is hard to shake that kind of label. So anyway, but I don't care. I have no regrets in any of the choices that I've made in my life. They have made me who I am today. But when I say the dating, when I started to actually date and really try to get to know people, it was so hard for me to set those boundaries, right? And so because of that, my experiences in dating were not good. They weren't good. And and as soon as you would, like, you're kicking it with somebody, right? You're talking to someone, and you're like, so where's this going? And this is after a few couple of months of doing this. So where's this going? Oh, let's just see where it goes. Men had a hard time trying to commit, and or you commit to me anyway. And I think it's because I didn't set those boundaries early on. So even though I can say honestly that the dating pool is full of piss and poo, and it always has been, I can also say that a part of it was my fault because of some of the experiences that I've had. So I'm a grown enough woman to admit to my stuff, okay? I can admit to it. But I mean, at least when I got older, the dates got better. They did get better. I've actually had a lot of cool dates, taken to professional football games, and shopping and traveling. I mean, some cool experiences. Am I with any of those people now? No, I'm not. So, because ultimately, even when you do all of those things, sometimes it's a way to keep you from knowing who they are truly, right? And then you find out, and you're like, oh, damn it, I did it again. So, after lots and lots of hefty therapy, um, I realized that I had a pattern. I had established a pattern for myself that was negatively impacting me in my dating experiences. So that's me holding myself accountable for what I've experienced, but I also recognize and realize that there were there were dudes who were taking advantage of me and my being naive, right? They saw that I was being naive. They knew that I was naive. They saw me coming. And in fact, I've heard guys say that they like to take advantage when they see girls like who I was at one point. They see girls like me, it's like there's like something tattooed on your forehead, like green, stupid, dumb, or something like that. There's got to be a neon sign somewhere that you can't see. Only those who are predators can see it, right? So, because they saw my dumb ass coming. They saw my dumb ass coming down the street, and they took advantage of that situation. I'm telling you. Yeah, it was rough, especially in the 20s. I think the 20s are meant to be a time when you make mistakes, right? It's a time for you to fuck up, so to speak. And I did that. I did that in droves, boo. I did that. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. But I will say one thing. One guy that had put me in a situation that was precarious at best and really demoralizing at worst. He apologized to me years later because when I was in college, especially my freshman year, and being so dumb, I thought that when a guy showed me attention that he was interested in me as a person, right? He wanted to get to know me and he wanted to be with me. Yeah, I said it. That's what I thought. That's what I thought, you know? That's what I sister thought, okay? But it wasn't always the fact. And especially when you're dealing with people like who were in Greek organizations, those guys were treacherous. And for a period of about 6 years, I just dated nothing but Greeks. And it wasn't intentional, but they were attracted to me. And now I know why. Because I was an easy mark, right? I was an easy mark, meaning like they knew that they could easily manipulate me and play games with me. Because the things that, I don't know if you guys know about this, but there is a thing where like they take young girls who are like 18, 17, 18 years old, don't know anything, ply them with liquor, and then they play games with them. And these games are basically to initiate her disrobing in front of these boys. Okay. And not to say that anything happened to me. However, I do know that there were some choo-choos ran. And that was the ultimate goal behind this game. Okay. And this person who apologized to me was one who instigated a game such as this. And even though I was naive, I wasn't that naive. And what they do is they blindfold you. And they they ask you questions, right? And you think that everyone is blindfolded because you've watched them all blindfold themselves and you're the last one to put your blindfolds on. Okay. So after you put your blindfolds on, then they start asking questions. And the questions are basically in relations to what would you take off if you were in this particular situation, and da 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 da. And I was like, and so one guy said I would take off my shoes, and I heard some shoes hit the ground. And then another guy said I would take off my shirt, and then I got hit with a shirt. I'm like, well, wait a minute. But if everybody's got their blindfolds on, how'd you know where to throw your shirt and hit me? Then I felt somebody touch my leg. So it was finally my turn to answer the question. And I said, what would I take off? My blindfold. I took my blindfold off, and they were all sitting there looking at me, grinning. They thought I was going to disrobe. That's the kind of predatory stuff that I'm talking about, that women deal with. Okay? That's not cool. That's not cool. I've been in situations where I've been sexually assaulted before, and trust me, that is something that sticks with you for a lifetime. And there are triggers that you're going to experience as well. So I'm telling you though, they weren't ready for me. They weren't ready for me and being on to them doing that, because I had happened to hear from another friend of mine who this did happen to, that's how they set you up. That's the only reason why they didn't succeed in what they were trying to accomplish with me. But needless to say, I ended up I left Western, and in my 20s, like I said, I made a lot of mistakes. A lot of it was out of trauma responses, right? And I didn't know. I had no clue that that's what it was. I just became more and more callous and knew that I had to become more protective. And so I became meaner. I was meaner. And you talk about a RBF. I had a RBF for your ass, okay? I did not play. But it also, during that time, was when I was going through my hoochie phase. So that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, so I wasn't attracting to me decent dudes, right? And so my dating pool sucked, okay? But now I'm none of those things, I'm not out there in the streets. I don't dance. I don't go to club. Well, I don't dance anymore. I dance at home, but I don't go to clubs. I don't go out, party. That's beyond. I've been there, done all of that. I don't feel like I'm missing out on a thing. But I don't really do anything to interact with or engage with other people, right? So, but I do know that when in my 40s, I was doing online dating. My 30s and 40s, I was doing online dating. And that was an experience, especially once I joined sites like eHarmony and what's the other one? Plenty of Fish, Black. I was on Black Planet, but that's a whole nother story. That's a whole episode by its daggone self, okay? But Plenty of Fish, eHarmony. What's the other one where you paid money? I can't remember the name of it, but I paid some money for it. And I mean, I was on all of them, but I also was doing comedy. I started doing comedy, and that would be the bulk of my sets, talking about those disastrous dates, because what I was finding were a bunch of liars, ex-cons, as well as really old men, okay? I opened up my dating pool to about 60, okay? 63, I think, was my cap. And the number of men who were in their 60s trying to get with me was insane. And I am no one's caretaker, okay? I've paid my dues in caretaking, all right? I raised 3 siblings. I helped my grandmother when she used to take in seniors. I don't do no caretaking. No. I'm not in sickness and in health. I'm not getting you in your health. I'm getting you when you're sick. No, I don't want that in my life. I'm not no. I'm not spending my golden years taking care of some old man who's been hoeing out there for 30, 40 years, and now he wants to settle down with me. No, it's not happening. I'd rather be alone. But there was this one guy, I remember, all of his pictures on his profile were really far off distance pictures and where he was running. And so you couldn't really see his face. But even with it being at a distance, he stated on his profile that he was 62, but he looked like he was 80. I don't know if they were still photographs. I don't know how those photos were taken, but he said that he was an avid runner and he did this, that, and the other, and he was very active for a 62-year-old. I was like, okay, well, we can meet for coffee, because that was my MO. I'd meet you for coffee. And we met for coffee, and that man was at least 96 years old. That's what he looked like. He looked like he was about 96. Actuality, he told me he was 72. So he lied about his age. And he said, I'm just trying to find a good woman that I can settle down with. I'm ready to just settle down with. I'm like, so do you have children? And he had all grown kids except for one, which was like 9. These are all red flags, people. Okay. These are all red flags. You got a 9-year-old and you're 78 years old. And how many kids did he have? He had 8 kids. Yeah. Never been married. Never married. See, so this is the kind of stuff that you run into. And I ain't got time for that. I'd rather be alone. I'd rather be alone with my thoughts. Be alone. I'd rather be alone. Leave me alone. No. Do I want to get married? Of course. I would love to get married. But I know honestly that the purpose behind marriage is to procreate, right? The only thing I'm rocking over here are some powdered eggs, okay? And I would have to get with a young man to revitalize them eggs, okay? And that ain't happening either. I've dated homosexuals. No. Before they were even called homosexuals and they had a label for them, I dated a homosexual. It was like my last ditch effort in trying to get into a serious relationship with somebody that didn't want to have kids because he already had kids. So he didn't want to have any more kids. But what ended up happening, me becoming an unintentional sugar mama. I was also an unintentional cougar because that nigga came after me. I didn't chase him. I wasn't interested. But yeah, it has not been, when I was ready, others weren't ready. And then when I tried to set boundaries and really try to be purposeful in my mission and finding someone, I attracted people like the homosexuals or the little young thugs or a narcissist. Narcissists love me. And I guess it's because I'm an empathic type of personality and at my core, cool and good. I'm a good person. And man, they just want to use me up for a supply, baby. And now that I've gotten to this age and really know what to look for, though, I'm doing better with my selection process. I'm taking my time. I'm not letting anybody rush me. And if I feel like making me feel uncomfortable in any shape, form, or fashion, boo-boo, you getting the scissors. The scissors, snip, snip. You're out of there. We're not dealing with that. And then especially when they say things like, but I'm different. Ooh, yeah. Every narcissist that I've ever met said that he was different. No. Or at least every toxic man that I've ever met said that he was different. Or you're used to dating those bootleg dudes. So you ain't used to a man like me. Okay. What kind of man is that? Somebody who's going to take me on an emotional roller coaster that's going to traumatize me for 5 or more years and that I have to go and seek additional therapy for? No, thank you. I'll keep my legs closed and keep it moving, brother. Thank you so much for joining me here on my most recent episode of for Trippin with Yvonne Maurice. Every episode is going to get better and better, you guys. So stick with me. And thank you so much. Love you guys.